Red warning lights painted everything in blood as the mining colony shook under another impact. David's fingers flew across the communication console while debris rained from the ceiling. He had maybe 30 seconds before the shields collapsed. Completely. The planet Kepler-62f had been humanity's most remote outpost, 1,200 light-years from Earth. For 3 years, New Haven Colony had extracted rare minerals from the world's crust without incident. The settlers had grown comfortable in their isolation, believing distance would protect them from galactic politics. They were wrong. The hegemony fleet had arrived without warning that morning. Massive alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. Like metal thunderclouds, their weapons already charging. David had been reviewing supply reports when the first energy beams struck the colony's outer defenses. Now the mining equipment burned outside, while families huddled in emergency shelters. The colony's few defensive turrets had lasted exactly 4 minutes against the alien assault. Commander Torres was trying to organize an evacuation, but their transport ships were sitting targets against the overwhelming enemy force. David adjusted the transmission frequency to broadcast across all known channels. His hands shook as he activated the emergency beacon. This message would travel faster than light through quantum relay networks, reaching every monitoring station within 1,000 light-years. The communications array sparked dangerously above his head. Another hit like that, and they would lose all outside contact forever. David spoke into the microphone with desperate clarity. "This is New Haven Colony on Kepler-62f. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. Repeat, this is an emergency. Distress call. Our shields are failing. We have 300 civilian colonists, including 47 children. Please, anyone who receives this message. We need immediate assistance." The building shuddered as another energy beam struck their failing defenses. Through the reinforced windows, David could see the alien ships hanging in the sky like massive predators. Their hulls were covered in strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Amy Walsh burst into the communications center, her research coat torn and her face streaked with ash. She carried a data tablet clutched against her chest, like a shield. "David, you need to include our research data in any transmission," she said breathlessly. "The minerals we found here, the alien technology fragments we discovered in the deep mines. If the colony falls, Earth needs to know what we learned." David nodded and began uploading her files to the distress beacon. The data packets compressed and prepared for transmission across the galaxy. Whatever Amy had discovered, she considered it vital enough to risk her life bringing it to him. Outside, the colony's power grid flickered. Emergency generators kicked in with a mechanical whine that mixed with the sound of distant explosions. The attackers were methodically destroying everything they had built on this world. Commander Torres appeared on David's internal communication screen. The older man's uniform was singed, and his left arm hung awkwardly at his side. "David, how long until you can get that message out?" Torres asked. "Uploading the final data packets now, sir. Maybe 2 more minutes." "We don't have 2 minutes. The main reactor is showing critical damage. When it goes, we lose all power, including communications." David's fingers moved faster across the console. The progress bar crawled forward with agonizing slowness. Outside, he could hear the whine of energy weapons getting closer. The aliens were no longer just bombarding from orbit. They had sent ground forces to finish what their ships had started, the quantum relay network connection, established with a soft chime. David felt a moment of hope as the transmission began uploading to the galactic communication grid. Somewhere out there, someone would receive their call for help. Amy grabbed his shoulder as the building shook again. "What about the quantum tunnel we found in the deep mines? The one that connects to the ancient network?" "Already included in the data packet," David replied. "If anyone analyzes your research, they'll understand what you discovered down there. The ancient tunnel system Amy's team had found was unlike anything in human records. The passages seemed to form a transportation network spanning multiple star systems. Some of the technology they had recovered suggested a civilization far more advanced than any known species. The distress signal finished uploading just as the lights went out. Emergency power bathed everything in dim red illumination. On David's screen, he could see the message propagating through the quantum relay network, copying itself to monitoring stations across known space. Torres' voice came through the intercom one final time. All personnel to emergency evacuation. Points. This is not a drill. Abandon the colony immediately. David looked at his console display. The distress signal was out there now, traveling at impossible speeds through folded space-time. Someone would hear it. Someone would understand that 300 human beings were about to die on a world so far from home that most people had never heard its name. Amy pulled him toward the exit as the building's structure groaned ominously. Through the transparent aluminum windows, David could see alien soldiers moving between the burning structures of their colony. The invaders wore armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Their weapons glowed with the same energy that had torn through their defenses. As they ran toward the evacuation shuttles, David wondered who would receive their message first. The Galactic Council monitored emergency frequencies, though they had little love for human expansion into what they considered their territory. Independent merchants might pick up the signal, but few would risk confronting a full hegemony battle fleet. The evacuation shuttle's engines were already warming up when they reached the landing pad. Other colonists were boarding in organized groups, carrying whatever possessions they could manage. Children cried while their parents tried to project calm they did not feel. David took one last look at the colony that had been their home. New Haven was dying, its buildings collapsing, under sustained alien bombardment. But somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, their distress call was spreading like ripples in a cosmic pond. He did not yet know that the first aliens to receive his desperate plea would find it amusing rather than tragic. The galaxy would soon learn that mocking human suffering was a mistake that carried consequences beyond their imagination. The quantum relay station orbited a dead star at the edge of Krek's space, its sensors constantly monitoring thousands of communication channels. Operator Slicks had been on duty for 6 standard hours when the human distress call arrived through the network. The reptilian alien paused his routine scanning to listen to the transmission. His scaled features twisted into what passed for amusement among his species. The desperation in the human voice was obvious, even through the translation protocols. "Zorth, come listen to this," Slicks called to his partner across the monitoring. Bay Zorth slithered over from his console, his serpentine body moving with fluid grace. The two Krex operators had processed thousands of distress calls over their careers, but human transmissions were always entertaining. "Another primitive species calling for rescue," Slicks explained as he replayed David's message. "Listen to how they beg. 300 colonists, including children. So emotional, so pathetic." Zorth's laugh was a hissing sound that echoed through the station's metal corridors. "Do they really think anyone cares about some mining colony in the outer rim? Humans spread across space like a plague, then cry when they face consequences." The Krex had encountered humans before during territorial disputes. They considered Earth's people to be aggressive expansionists with technology barely worthy of spaceflight. Most galactic species shared this opinion. Slicks copied the distress call to his personal data storage. "This would be perfect for the communication forums. The others will find this hilarious." Within an hour, David's desperate plea was circulating through alien social networks across a dozen star systems. The Krex posted it with commentary about human weakness and poor strategic planning. Soon, other species were adding their own observations. The insectoid Vorth Collective found the transmission particularly amusing. Hive Node 7, speaking for millions of connected minds, broadcast enhanced versions of the distress call with added sound effects. They created remixes where David's voice was layered with musical beats popular in alien nightclubs. Observe the individual human consciousness Hive Node 7 transmitted across their network. Note how it fragments under pressure. Such primitive emotional responses. No collective coordination, no logical resource distribution. They deserve whatever fate awaits them. The message spread beyond military monitoring stations to civilian networks. Alien university students used it in thesis projects about failed colonial expansion. Entertainment networks incorporated clips into comedy shows about galactic incompetence. Admiral Rex of the Krek's Third Fleet received the recording while reviewing intelligence reports about human activities in contested space. The military leader had been planning operations against human outposts for months. "Perfect timing," Rex told his staff officers. "This demonstrates exactly why humans pose no real threat to established powers. When pressure arrives, they collapse into individual panic instead of coordinated resistance." Rex ordered the distress call to be played during military academy briefings as an example of tactical failure. Notice how the human appeals to emotion rather than offering strategic value to potential rescuers. They have no understanding of galactic politics or military realities. The recording reached the Galactic Council's central offices 3 days after the attack on New Haven. Council members from various species reviewed the transmission during their regular session on frontier security matters. Councilor Vec, representing the dominant Altarian faction, listened to David's plea with visible disdain. The tall, gray-skinned humanoid had advocated for restricting human expansion for decades. This incident demonstrates the inevitable result of allowing primitive species to establish colonies beyond their defensive capabilities, Vec announced to the assembled representatives. The humans have overextended their limited resources and now expect others to rescue them from predictable consequences. The council officially logged the distress call as a low-priority incident. No member species volunteered to investigate or offer assistance. Several representatives suggested using the recording as evidence that humanity needed stricter limitations on colonial expansion. Meanwhile, far from the political centers of galactic civilization, Captain Stone guided his merchant vessel through the hyperspace lanes between trading posts. His cargo hold carried manufactured goods from human space to alien markets, part of the limited commercial relationship Earth maintained with other species. Stone had been trading in alien space for 8 years. He understood how most species viewed humanity, but the work paid well, and someone needed to maintain diplomatic and economic connections beyond Earth's borders. His communication array picked up scattered transmissions from various alien networks. Stone routinely monitored these channels to track market conditions and political developments that might affect his trade routes. The fragments he intercepted made his blood run cold. Pieces of a familiar voice speaking English mixed with alien laughter and commentary. Stone spent hours reconstructing the full transmission from the scattered references. When he finally heard David's complete distress call, Stone felt a mixture of rage and horror. Not just because of what had happened to New Haven Colony, but because of how the galaxy had responded. The alien networks were treating human suffering as entertainment. They shared the recording like a joke, adding their own mockery and commentary. Popular alien social platforms featured entire compilation videos titled things like Pathetic Human Moments, with David's desperate plea as the centerpiece. Stone began recording every alien transmission that referenced the distress call. The scope of the mockery was staggering. Dozens of species had shared and remixed the recording. Military academies used it as training material. Entertainment networks featured it in comedy programming. The merchant captain realized he might be the only human who knew what had happened to New Haven and how the galaxy had reacted. His quantum communication equipment could reach Earth, but the message would take weeks to arrive through the secure channels available to civilian vessels. Stone composed his report carefully, including audio samples of the alien mockery and analysis of which species had participated most enthusiastically. He wanted Earth to understand not just that New Haven had been attacked, but how their distress call had become a source of galactic amusement. As his message began its journey toward Earth through quantum relay networks, Stone wondered how his homeworld would respond. The alien species, spreading mockery of human suffering, clearly believed Earth was too distant and too weak to retaliate. They had no idea how wrong they were. Stone had seen the massive construction projects in Earth's outer solar system during his last supply run. He had noticed the unusual military buildups and the secretive research facilities. The galaxy thought it knew humanity's capabilities, but Stone suspected they were about to learn the difference between what humans showed the universe and what they kept hidden in the darkness between worlds. The war room beneath the Rocky Mountains had been carved from solid stone 50 meters below the surface. President Martinez walked through the reinforced corridors toward the most classified meeting in human history. Her security detail moved. Silently behind her, their faces grim with the weight of what they had learned. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Stone's message reached Earth through the quantum relay network. His report had included not just news of the New Haven attack, but recordings of how the galaxy had responded to their people's suffering. Martinez paused outside the war room doors, composed herself, and entered to find her top military commanders, already assembled around the holographic display table. The room held more secrets than anywhere else on Earth. Admiral Hayes stood at attention as she entered. The grizzled military leader had spent 40 years building Earth's hidden defensive capabilities. His weathered face showed no emotion as he prepared to brief the President on humanity's true strength. "Madam President, we've completed our analysis of the New Haven situation and the galactic response," Hayes began. "The attack was not random. Our intelligence indicates it was a probe to test Earth's defensive capabilities and alliance networks." General Park activated the holographic display, showing star charts of human space and the surrounding alien territories. Red markers indicated known hostile forces, while blue dots showed human installations. They wanted to see if anyone would come to our aid, Park explained. The aliens who attacked New Haven were testing whether Earth has any real allies or military reach beyond our home system. Dr. Rivers, the chief of advanced weapons research, stepped forward with a data tablet. Her civilian appearance masked one of the most dangerous minds in the solar system. "The good news is that their probe failed completely," Dr. Rivers said. "They learned nothing about our actual capabilities because we've maintained perfect operational security for over 2 decades. Martinez took her seat at the head of the table. The weight of command had never felt heavier than in this moment, surrounded by the architects of humanity's secret military power. "Show me what we actually have," she ordered. Hayes gestured to the holographic display, which transformed to show the outer solar system. Dozens of installations appeared that existed on no public record. Massive shipyards orbited beyond Neptune. Construction facilities stretched between the asteroid belts. Weapon platforms hung in the dark spaces where no civilian ever traveled. "Project Cerberus has been active for 23 years, Hayes explained. "We began construction immediately after first contact with hostile alien forces. Every interaction with galactic civilization convinced us that eventual conflict was inevitable." The display showed massive fleets of warships unlike anything in public human service. Their hulls were black as space itself, designed for stealth operations across interstellar distances. Weapon systems that Earth's enemies could not imagine were built into their frames. General Park highlighted specific vessel classes as he continued the briefing. "Our quantum tunnel drives allow near-instantaneous travel across galactic distances. While alien species require weeks or months to move fleets between star systems, we can deploy anywhere in the galaxy within hours." "The alien attackers used conventional hyperspace technology," Dr. Rivers added. "Their ships are at least 50 years behind our current capabilities. We've been observing their technology through captured debris and intelligence operations for decades." Martinez studied the fleet deployments shown on the holographic display. Humanity had built a war machine in absolute secrecy while presenting a facade of limited technological development to the galaxy. How many ships are we talking about? She asked. 237 capital ships across 12 fleet. Groups, Hayes replied. Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy anything in known alien arsenals. Our smallest destroyers outgun their largest battleships. The president absorbed this information while watching the display cycle through. Different weapon systems. Plasma fusion cannons that could crack planets. Self-replicating drone swarms that could overwhelm entire star systems. Weaponized artificial intelligence systems that could coordinate attacks across multiple fronts simultaneously. The aliens believe humanity is confined to Earth and a few nearby colonies, Park continued. They have no idea we've been building military installations throughout this entire region of space. Dr. Rivers activated another display showing intelligence networks that stretched across alien space. We've had deep cover operatives in their governments for over a decade. We know their fleet positions, their supply lines, their command structures, and their strategic weaknesses. Martinez felt a chill as she realized the scope of what her predecessors had authorized. Earth had been preparing for galactic war while maintaining the appearance of a peaceful, limited civilization. The New Haven attack gives us legal justification, under both human and galactic law, Hayes explained. They struck first against civilian targets. Any response we choose to implement will be considered legitimate retaliation. The president studied the faces around the table. These people had spent decades building humanity's hidden strength, while the rest of the species remained unaware of what lurked in their own solar system. What about casualties? Martinez asked. If we respond with force, how many of our people are at risk? Minimal, Park replied immediately. Our technology advantage is so overwhelming that we anticipate extremely low human losses in any conflict scenario. The aliens simply don't have weapons capable of penetrating our defensive systems. Dr. Rivers pulled up casualty projections on the display. We estimate less than 1% human casualties even in worst-case scenarios. Our stealth capabilities mean most alien forces won't even detect our ships before being destroyed. Hayes leaned forward across the holographic table. Madam President, the galaxy has made a critical error. They believe they can attack civilians without consequence. They've turned our people's suffering into entertainment. The president thought about Captain Stone's recordings, about alien species laughing at David's desperate plea for help. She remembered the videos of alien entertainment networks using human distress as comedy material. The aliens who mocked our distress call, she said finally. I want a complete list of every species that participated. Already compiled, Park confirmed. 43 species shared the recording on their networks. 17 species used it in military training programs. 8 species featured it in entertainment programming. Martinez stood and walked to the large window that showed the Earth's surface far above. Her people went about their daily lives, unaware that their government possessed the power to reshape galactic civilization. Admiral Hayes, begin implementation of Response Protocol 7, she ordered. Full deployment authorization. No warnings, no negotiations, no mercy. Hayes straightened to attention. Understood, Madam President. When do you want the fleets to begin moving? Immediately. I want every species that mocked our people to understand that human suffering carries a price they cannot afford to pay. The room fell silent as the magnitude of what they were about to unleash became clear. Humanity had built a war machine in darkness and secrecy. Now they would reveal it to a galaxy that had made the mistake of believing Earth was weak. Dr. Rivers began transmitting deployment orders to the hidden fleets. Throughout the outer solar system, massive ships that had never appeared on any alien sensor began powering their weapons and preparing for war. The galaxy had mocked a human distress call, treating it as entertainment and proof of human weakness. They were about to learn that Earth's answer to mockery was not words, but fire that would burn across the stars until every alien who had laughed learned to fear the sound of human voices calling for help. The first sign something was wrong came to Admiral Rex during his morning meal aboard the Krex flagship Dominator. His communications officer interrupted the daily briefing with an urgent message that made no sense. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures appearing throughout our territory," the officer reported, his scaled hands trembling as he operated the sensor console. "The signatures don't match any known drive systems or weapon profiles." Rex set down his nutrition cylinder and moved to the bridge displays. The holographic star map showed his third fleet positioned around the Krex homeworld, exactly where they had been for the past month. Nothing should have been able to approach without advance warning. "Explain these readings," Rex ordered, though a cold dread was already forming in his mind. Before his officer could respond, space itself seemed to tear open around the Krex fleet. Massive black portals appeared in the vacuum, circular tiers in reality that violated every principle of known physics. From these impossible openings emerged ships unlike anything in galactic records. The human vessels were pure black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Their hulls displayed no identifying marks, no decorative elements, nothing but smooth surfaces that seemed to drink starlight. They moved with predatory grace, positioning themselves around the Krex fleet with mathematical precision. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves," Rex broadcast on all frequencies. His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed across multiple star systems. The response came not as words, but as action. The lead human ship fired a single beam of coherent energy that struck the Krex heavy cruiser Vengeance. Rex watched in horror as the beam passed completely through his warship's shields, as if they did not exist. The cruiser simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, no energy discharge. One moment it was there, the next moment empty. Space occupied the same coordinates. 8,000 Krex personnel had been converted to constituent atoms in less than a second. Rex's communication systems activated without his authorization. A human voice spoke in perfect Krex language, though the accent carried undertones of something cold and implacable. "Admiral Rex of the Krex Third Fleet, you participated in the mockery of human distress call 4471 Delta from New Haven Colony. Your species found our suffering amusing. We have come to demonstrate the consequences of that decision." The human fleet began moving with synchronized precision. Their weapons systems charged with a sound that somehow transmitted through the vacuum of space, a deep thrumming that Rex could feel in his bones. "Wait," Rex transmitted desperately. "This is a misunderstanding. We can negotiate terms. The Krex Empire has resources, technology, territorial concessions we can offer." "Negotiation requires trust," the human voice replied. "Trust requires respect. You showed our people neither. Your response is noted and rejected." The second wave of human attacks targeted Rex's remaining heavy ships with surgical precision. Each beam that lanced through space erased another Krex vessel from existence. The aliens' shields, armor, and defensive systems proved completely useless against human weapons. Rex realized with growing terror that his fleet was not engaged in battle. Battle implied both sides could inflict damage on each other. This was extermination, clinical and efficient. Similar scenes were playing out across dozens of star systems simultaneously. Every species that had shared, mocked, or profited from David's distress call found themselves facing human fleets that appeared without warning through quantum tunnel portals. The Vorth collective experienced something they had never known before: fear. Hive Node 7, which had created entertainment remixes of human suffering, watched as human ships systematically destroyed their orbital facilities around their core worlds. Individual human consciousness demonstrates unexpected coordination, Hive Node 7 transmitted to the collective network. Tactical precision suggests advanced artificial intelligence integration. Our previous analysis was fundamentally incorrect. The human response to Vorth resistance was overwhelming force applied with mathematical efficiency. Swarms of self-replicating drones emerged from human ships, each one capable of independent thought and action. The drones moved like flocks of metallic birds, overwhelming Vorth defenses through sheer numbers and coordination. Within hours, every Vorth military installation within 50 light-years had been reduced to floating debris. The collective consciousness that had mocked human emotional responses found itself begging for mercy in frequencies the humans ignored. Captain Nova commanded one of the human stealth destroyer squadrons tasked with eliminating alien communication networks. Her ships moved through space like ghosts, invisible to enemy sensors until the moment they struck. "Target the relay stations first," Nova ordered her fleet. "Cut their ability to coordinate responses or call for reinforcements." The quantum communication networks that had spread mockery of human distress across the galaxy became the first casualties of Earth's retaliation. Human weapons turned the relay stations into expanding clouds of superheated plasma, severing connections between alien worlds. Species that had laughed at human weakness found themselves isolated and blind, unable to contact their own fleets or coordinate defensive measures. The same networks that had carried alien entertainment now carried only static and silence. Admiral Hayes observed the operation from his command ship positioned at the edge of human space. Status reports flowed in from dozens of simultaneous engagements across hostile alien territories. "Krek's Third Fleet eliminated," came the report from Rex's former position. "No survivors, no human casualties." "Vorth core worlds secured," reported another squadron leader. "Military resistance ended. Occupation forces deploying." "Altarian border stations destroyed," transmitted a stealth unit. "Communication networks severed, proceeding to secondary targets." Hayes watched the tactical display update in real time. Every alien species that had participated in mocking the New Haven distress call was facing systematic military defeat. Human technology proved so superior that resistance was not just futile, but irrelevant. The Galactic Council, which had dismissed David's plea as unworthy of attention, found their central chambers surrounded by human warships that had appeared. Through quantum tunnels opened directly inside their space station, Counselor Vec, who had advocated for restricting human expansion, stood frozen as human soldiers in powered armor materialized in the council chambers through personal teleportation devices. "The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved," announced the lead human. "Soldier," his voice electronically modulated to carry across the chamber. "All member species that participated in mockery of human distress call 4471 Delta will face occupation and reparations." "This is illegal under galactic law," Vec protested, though his voice carried no authority in the face of overwhelming human force. "Galactic law failed to protect human civilians," the soldier replied. "Earth recognizes no law that permits the mockery of our people's suffering. You had your chance to respond appropriately to our distress call. You chose entertainment over assistance." The human occupation forces moved with the same clinical efficiency that characterized their military operations. They secured alien government facilities, military installations, and communication networks with minimal resistance. Species that had possessed galactic influence for centuries found themselves under human administration within days. Their military forces had been eliminated so completely that resistance was impossible. Throughout alien space, the same message began broadcasting on all frequencies. It was David's original distress call from New Haven Colony, played in its entirety without modification. After the recording ended, a new human voice spoke in every known alien language simultaneously. This message was ignored, mocked, and used for entertainment by 43 alien species. Earth remembers who answered our call for help and who did not. We remember who showed compassion and who showed cruelty. The galaxy will learn that human memory is long and human justice is absolute. The age of alien dominance in the galaxy had ended not with negotiation or political maneuvering, but with the sudden application of overwhelming force by a species the aliens had fatally underestimated. The rebuilt Galactic Council chamber looked identical to its predecessor, but everything about its function had changed. Alien representatives sat in the same curved arrangement they had used for centuries, yet now they waited for permission to speak from the human representative who occupied the central podium. Ambassador Wright stood at the position once reserved for ceremonial speeches by rotating council chairs. The middle-aged human woman wore simple diplomatic attire, but everyone in the chamber understood that she spoke for the species that had reshaped galactic civilization in less than a month. President Martinez had chosen Wright carefully for this role. She possessed the diplomatic experience to navigate alien cultural sensitivities while maintaining the firm stance Earth required. Her first address to the reformed council would establish the framework for humanity's relationship with the galaxy. The New Haven distress call has been located and restored to this chamber, Wright announced, gesturing to speakers that had been installed around the room. Before we begin today's proceedings, we will observe the traditional remembrance. Every alien representative straightened in their seats as David's voice filled the chamber. The desperate plea for help that had once been a source of galactic entertainment now commanded respectful silence from species that had learned the cost of mockery. The recording played in its entirety, including Amy's research data and Commander Torres' evacuation orders. When it ended, Wright allowed 30 seconds of silence before continuing. Earth's response to this distress call established several principles that now govern galactic relations, she stated. First, attacks on civilian populations demand immediate and proportional response. Second, mockery of suffering will be met with consequences. Third, technological superiority carries responsibility for protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Counselor Vec, one of the few alien leaders to survive the human military response, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The Altarian representative had spent months in human custody while his species' government was restructured under Earth's oversight. The terms established at the end of military operations remain in effect, Wright continued. All species that participated in mocking the New Haven distress call will pay ongoing reparations to the families of the colonists who died. These payments will continue until Earth determines that justice has been served. The financial burden was crippling several alien civilizations, but none dared protest. The Krex Empire had lost 60% of its fleet in the first week of fighting. The Vorth Collective had seen their core worlds occupied by human forces that showed no signs of withdrawing. Human monitoring stations now operate in all major star systems, Wright announced. These stations will ensure that distress calls from any species receive immediate and appropriate response. No being in this galaxy will again face the isolation and abandonment that our colonists experienced. Admiral Hayes watched the proceedings from Earth through quantum communication links. The military commander had overseen the occupation forces that maintained order in former enemy territories. His reports showed that resistance had virtually ceased. The aliens had learned that human technology was not limited to weapons. Human medical teams had saved millions of alien lives during the post-war reconstruction. Human engineers had rebuilt infrastructure destroyed in the conflicts. Human scientists had shared advances that improved life across multiple worlds. The galaxy assumed Earth was weak because we sought to avoid conflict, Wright continued. This assumption proved false. Humanity avoided conflict because we understood its true cost, not because we lacked the means to wage it effectively. The human ambassador activated a holographic display showing the current galactic map. Blue zones indicated human-administered territories, while green areas showed allied species that had offered aid during the New Haven crisis. Several species distinguished themselves by offering assistance when they received our distress call, Wright noted. The Centauri Republic dispatched rescue ships immediately. The Tau Ceti Federation offered medical supplies and refugee assistance. These actions will be remembered and rewarded. The species that had helped humanity during their Crisis now found themselves with preferred trading status, technology-sharing agreements, and mutual defense treaties. They had discovered that showing compassion to humans in distress carried benefits beyond moral satisfaction. Dr. Rivers appeared on Wright's personal communication device with an update from the Outer Rim territories. The scientist had been overseeing the reconstruction of New Haven Colony as a memorial to human determination. The quantum tunnel network discovered by Amy's team has been fully mapped, Rivers reported. We found connections to 17 star systems, including several that contain evidence of the ancient civilization that built them. The archaeological discoveries on New Haven had taken on new significance after Earth's military victory. The quantum tunnels appeared to be part of a galaxy-spanning transportation network built by a species that had vanished millions of years ago. Human research teams are investigating these sites with full galactic support, Wright announced to the Council. Any species wishing to contribute to this archaeological effort will be welcomed, provided they demonstrate appropriate respect for the scientific process. Several alien representatives immediately began preparing proposals for cooperation. Association with human research projects had become a mark of status in the new galactic order. David, the communications officer who had sent the fateful distress call, now served as memorial keeper on the rebuilt New Haven. The colony had been reconstructed as both a functional settlement and a monument to those who had died in the original attack. His communication console displayed a constant stream of messages from across the galaxy. Where once there had been silence in response to human distress, now there were offers of assistance, formal apologies, and requests for cooperation. Message from the Vegan Trade Union, David reported to his supervisor. They're requesting permission to establish an emergency response station in this system. The former enemies of humanity now competed to demonstrate their reliability as allies. Species that had once mocked human weakness now sought to prove their commitment to helping humans in distress. Wright concluded her address to the Galactic Council with a final reminder of how galactic relations had changed. The New Haven distress. Call taught the galaxy a lesson that will not be forgotten, she stated. When humans call for help, the response reveals the true character of those who hear it. Earth remembers acts of compassion and acts of cruelty with equal clarity. We reward the first and punish the second with the same determination. The council session ended with the traditional vote of confidence in galactic stability. For the first time in recorded history, the vote was unanimous. Every species represented in the chamber understood that their continued independence depended on maintaining Earth's approval. As the alien representatives filed out of the chamber, many paused to listen once more to the memorial speaker's broadcasting, David's original distress call. The message that had once been a source of entertainment had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization. On New Haven, David finished his evening shift monitoring galactic communications. The quantum tunnel network hummed with peaceful traffic as ships moved between star systems under human protection. Emergency response fleets stood ready to answer any distress call within hours of transmission. He looked out at the rebuilt colony where families lived and worked under the protection of the most powerful military force in known space. The children playing in the colony's parks would grow up in a galaxy where their distress calls would never go unanswered. David's console chimed with an incoming transmission from a Krex merchant vessel reporting engine failure near the asteroid belt. Without hesitation, he forwarded the distress call to the nearest human response fleet while simultaneously alerting Krex authorities. "This is New Haven Memorial Station responding to your emergency," David transmitted. "Human rescue vessels are en route to your position. Estimated arrival time is 47 minutes. Please maintain your current heading and prepare for assistance." The response came immediately, filled with gratitude that would have been unthinkable before the war. "Thank you, New Haven. We are honored by your swift response. Our crew is safe and ready to receive assistance." Through his viewport, David could see the stars that had once seemed cold and distant. Now they represented a galaxy united under Human protection, where every species understood that distress calls were sacred communications deserving immediate response. The memorial wall behind his station displayed the names of all 300 colonists who had died in the original attack. Below their names, a simple inscription read, "They called for help. The galaxy learned to answer." Captain Stone's merchant vessel appeared on approach sensors, returning from another successful trading mission to alien space. The veteran trader had become something of a celebrity among both humans and aliens for his role in alerting Earth to the galactic mockery. Stone docked at the station and made his way to David's communication center, as had become his custom during visits to New Haven. The two men represented different aspects of humanity's relationship with the galaxy, but they shared an understanding of how much had changed. "How are the trade relations developing?" David asked as Stone settled into a chair beside the communication console. "Better than anyone expected," Stone replied. "Alien species are competing to offer favorable terms to human merchants. They want to demonstrate their commitment to positive relations with Earth. The economic transformation had been as dramatic as the military victory. Human technology, shared selectively with allied species, had revolutionized manufacturing and transportation across multiple worlds. The same quantum tunnel technology that moved human fleets now carried civilian traffic under strict Earth oversight. "Any interesting communications intercepts this week?" Stone asked, gesturing toward David's monitoring equipment. David activated his secondary console, which tracked alien communication networks for intelligence purposes. The same systems that had once carried mockery of human suffering now transmitted requests for assistance, offers of cooperation, and expressions of gratitude. "The Vorth Collective sent another formal apology yesterday," David reported. "They're requesting permission to establish a cultural exchange program with human universities." Stone shook his head in amazement. "The species that turned your distress call into entertainment music now wants to study human culture. The irony is remarkable." The transformation went beyond mere political necessity. Many alien species had genuinely learned to appreciate human values of individual dignity and mutual assistance. They studied human philosophy, art, and social structures with the enthusiasm of students discovering new ways of understanding existence. Ambassador Wright's voice came through the station's communication system with the daily galactic status report. Her updates had become a crucial source of information for humans throughout the galaxy. "All monitoring stations report normal operations," Wright announced. 17 distress calls were received and resolved successfully in the past 24 hours. Response times continue to improve as coordination between species increases. The efficiency of the new emergency response system had surprised even human planners. Alien species that had once ignored each other's distress calls now competed to provide the fastest and most effective assistance. David thought about the night 3 years ago when he had broadcast his desperate plea into an apparently uncaring universe. He could never have imagined that his words would become the foundation for reshaping galactic civilization. The quantum relay networks that had once carried mockery now carried hope. Children across dozens of worlds learned the story of the New Haven distress call as a lesson about the importance of helping others in crisis. "Memorial Station, this is transport vessel Compassion requesting docking clearance," came a transmission from an approaching Altarian ship. David processed the request while noting the vessel's name. Many alien ships had been renamed after the war to reflect the new galactic values. Words like compassion, mercy, and assistance had replaced the aggressive names that once dominated alien fleets. "Cleared for docking, Compassion. Welcome to New Haven Memorial Station." As the alien vessel maneuvered toward the docking bay, David reflected on how completely the galaxy had changed. Fear had taught the aliens respect, but cooperation had taught them genuine appreciation for human values. The communication console displayed the evening summary of galactic activities. Trade flourished under human protection. Scientific cooperation. Advanced knowledge across multiple fields. Emergency response systems ensured that no distress call went unanswered. Stone prepared to leave for his quarters, but paused at the memorial wall displaying the names of the original colonists. They died alone and afraid, he said quietly. But their sacrifice ensured that no one in this galaxy will ever die that way again. David nodded as he watched the stars through the viewport. Somewhere in that vast darkness, human fleets maintained their vigilant patrol. Monitoring stations listened for calls of distress. Response teams stood ready to answer any plea for help. Within hours, the galaxy had mocked a human distress call and learned that Earth's answer was not words, but action that reshaped civilization itself. Now every species understood that human memory was long, human justice was absolute, and human compassion extended to all who proved worthy of it. The age of galactic indifference had ended forever, replaced by an era where distress calls were sacred and assistance was guaranteed. Earth had taught the universe a lesson written in fire across the stars. Mockery of human suffering carried consequences, but respect for human values carried rewards beyond imagination.